broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after-shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Welcome, Revenge fans, to another AFTERBUZZ TV Revenge after show here for the episode Abduction. What an episode it was, and it is just me today because, unfortunately, Christina Kaplan, Anna Koppel, and Roxy Stryer could not all make it. They love football so much that they just couldn't be teared away from that screen. I know. They missed such a great episode. And if you haven't already done so, be sure to subscribe over on youtube.com/AfterBuzzTV to our channel. There's so many after shows there. And I'll give a little plug to Gallivant, another ABC show that they just finished up their after show. Definitely check that out. There's tons other after shows as well. And if you prefer audio, there's iTunes for you. So subscribe there to any after show on AfterBuzz TV. So, talking about Abduction, this almost felt like a season finale because so many things got wrapped up. I mean, all in all, today there's just 3 storylines to basically go over. The Malcolm Black storyline, and within that, yes, there's subplots of Ben and Jack and Emily and Victoria and Emily and Victoria and David and all these other things, but Malcolm Black is the main through line for all of that. We have Luis and Nolan, and then, of course, we have Margot. And out of all of this, the only storylines that kind of continue eventually, which I'll talk about in predictions, is Margot and Luis, because Malcolm Black is no more. Let's start with Luis, because that's... it's interesting because, you know, when we're here regularly and just kind of speak about it, Luis, you know, was getting more and more interesting, but we never understood why we should like her. And I'm nervous because do we like her? And now we're finding out she, you know, she started off crazy, and then we were getting to like her. At least I was. And now tonight we find out that she could be perhaps the murderer of her father. Now, of course, as we learn, this could be just the mother rambling, as always, and it's interesting because finally they did that nice little joke. I enjoyed that, where we've seen Mama Ellis multiple times, but this is the first time we actually see her in the flesh. Of course, she's back here because of what happened with Lyman. She's here to check on her and remind her that, hey, no matter what you do, I control the money, and you say otherwise, no more money. And when Nolan and Luis were kind of talking about it, of like, I wonder if there's other stuff that can be done. There's got to be some things that, you know, there's got to be a loophole of sorts. And because Luis is talking about basically, you know, I don't think I can fathom living without money and things like that. And I said, isn't it interesting what could possibly be done where you could get money? And because it's funny, because obviously Nolan has so much money, but I didn't think they'd take it to the level they did. I thought maybe he would help her out for a couple of months, and they would take you know, it through the court system. But they quickly found a loophole thanks to Nolan's lawyers, and they got married because that allows Luis control of her money, and they're celebrating with the best of the best and rubbing it into Mama Ellis's face. And again, that's when she pulls out her, you know, her threats and whatnot. So I'm intrigued by this because I don't know, you know, if this is kind of what's left over in terms of the plots. It's going to be interesting to find out how it fully develops. The most interesting part about this storyline for me was that Nolan, more and more, is less involved with Emily's storylines, and that he's not, you know, the friend that he used to be. He obviously cares about her and things like that, but he's not doing as much. You know, Jack and Ben, and it was actually Ben who calls him out. Don't you? Isn't Nolan Ross some sort of genius? And we can't get any more people involved. It'd be interesting to see, had they called him, what he would choose. Of course, he would choose Emily, but he's becoming more and more preoccupied, and so I like Nolan Ross having his own storyline and kind of dealing with his own things, but I don't like that he's out of Emily's life, and I want to know how he reacts to all of the news. And speaking of that, fans at home, whether you're watching now live, which a lot of our shows stream live directly to YouTube, and you can comment along with us via the chat, or you're listening in your car while you're driving to work, or just you're just watching the video while you're at work or wherever you may be. Feel free to leave a comment about what you think of the Luis storyline. We've been talking about it for weeks, as we have to and should. And I'm interested to get your take, given this sort of new information. Do you think she really killed her own father? Because that's who her number one connection is through this father. That's the only time she's really known sanity. And obviously that's kind of part of Nolan's plea to her. Says he was trying to get you out of this, blah blah. So it'll be interesting. And I wonder. Also, Nolan is now married. So how is that? Is there real love there? Which I think on Nolan's part there is, but to have it be so quick, we were speculating, like, are they gonna be a thing? And I actually really like them together, but it's just one of those things that it just happened so fast, which could be a good thing on Revenge. Revenge weddings don't always turn out so good, so the fact that it happened so quickly and we really didn't see it might actually be a good thing. So we'll see. All right. So I guess I'll talk about. Let me talk about Margot, even though technically she should be the last thing because that's what we leave on. And I joked about it a couple episodes ago when I said this is season 1, episode 1 of Margot's Revenge, and it seems like, post this episode, there's really no quote-unquote villains or anything like that for Revenge. Everything seems very happy, and next episode will be resetting the clock. We gotta, unfortunately, we'll have a lot of those build-up episodes because we have to do that. So much ended in this episode, and so we've very carefully laid down the groundwork for this through Margot, and she's already got things in motion. Her number one guy, or at least Pascal's, her father's, she's now employed him, and he gets results quick. And it was nice to see the flashback of Victoria and her conversation. We were wondering last week, what did Victoria say? How truthful was she? And it seemed for the most part that Victoria was truthful. I mean, I know we got still only a tiny snippet of that. She mentions, I'm not mad because of what happened 20 years ago. But I think I got to congratulate Victoria because I feel like she did say the truth. Yes, there's always going to be some biased things that she would have inserted, but for the most part, I feel she laid it out pretty factual to Margot, and right now Margot is definitely emotional. She has a right to be, but I think she might regret these decisions, and she hasn't gone through this whole process of revenge. I mean, it's nice to see Victoria kind of getting out of this because she knows all the costs that come with, revenge and on both ends of it, and it's just not worth it. I mean, this has literally been 20 years of their lives because of one decision, and so that's the path now Margot's going to go down. I don't know. We'll see. I don't think it's anything that we've ever predicted. We've always predicted, and I believe it was supposed to be, Victoria versus Emily, and it kind of was, but ultimately, and it still could be. I don't know how they would pull that off, but right now it's looking like the ultimate showdown is Margot versus Emily, and I'll talk more about that kind of in predictions of where I think that is heading. but it's definitely interesting, and I really wish Margot didn't do that. I'm curious to see how they're gonna really build that and how it's gonna go, because the nice part is now everyone knows the truth, and so the pieces that's missing, obviously, which she's trying to get, is the evidence. And if she gets the evidence, people can be locked away. But it's just opening up wounds that perhaps don't need to be opened, and it's going to be, now we're going to take the war publicly, because she represents the media, and Emily's never been a fan of the media. She likes to keep things quiet overall. So let's talk about the main storyline, Malcolm Black. We were all excited that Victoria and Emily had to work together, and boy, did they ever have to work together. And they did. They fooled us a couple times, at least me. I perhaps can't speak for you, so let me know. But I was certainly fooled by, the chatter, and eventually when Victoria gave away Jack Porter. That was a brilliant plan, and I'm glad Victoria went along with it. But I certainly did not expect that to be part of the plan. So kudos to that. And we knew it was always going to be interesting, because here you have two people in captivity. You could argue that David only cares for one of them, and that was definitely played along with, obviously being Amanda/Emily, not Victoria. And of course, the only leverage that David had is Kate, who is not alive. And the phone thing for Emily knew right away that, and they had that subtle hint where obviously David has now called upon Jack, because Jack, of course, would have Kate's voice through his voicemails and everything like that, because they were lovers, unfortunately. It's one of those storylines. I enjoyed it, but I think emotions ran too high for them too fast. They went from 0 to I want love for Jack just like anybody else, but and I thought early on Kate was a great fit. Give it obviously until we found out that she was Malcolm Black's daughter, but it just went too fast. Luckily it did, though, because he had those messages, and so they manipulated the voice to say, and I was worried, how much can they really put together, because it's one of those things, if you take things out of proportion, it would sound like this via the phone, and the clarity and whatever else, if she's outside and all of a sudden indoor, blah blah, it would have been jumbled. And I feel like Malcolm's too smart. He would have picked up on that, but they used 2 words each, and they only did the 2 sentences, quote unquote. And when I say sentences again, each sentence was 2 words. So I thought a brilliant plan, and then Emily right away picks up on that. Jack Porter, and I didn't know what that meant at the moment. I thought she just obviously she was just noting that, oh wow, that David, her father, got it from Jack's phone, but it went further than that, because she knew, oh, Jack and my father are working together. Let me now devise a plan around that. So, brilliant move on their parts. Obviously, the big question was always going to be how is Ben going to now react to the news of knowing kind of basically everything. And I really like Ben and Jack together. They had that great moment at the police station, like, hey, you know what, Alvarez saved his life. If there's a chance he's alive, you got to help me. And it's like, okay, we'll do it. And it was go time from there. And he was really a valuable asset, obviously. They search for the car, they find the car, and I, as an audience member, didn't realize, oh yeah, they came by boat. So that was, all the pieces that this was just one of those great episodes where I could typically, as we watch the episode, I'm sure it's different from you guys because you get to enjoy it a lot more. For us, we really, lean forward. We have our pens and our pads, and we have to write notes because we have to come up with, ideas and whatever else. And so, it's sometimes tough to get to enjoy it to the level that perhaps you guys do, in our first viewing. But this episode was one of those where finally I could also just kind of relax, lean back, and just enjoy the episode and all watch it unfold. And why don't we take a few questions from our live chat? Marissa's going to feed them to me because I'm not looking at them. But go ahead, Marissa. What do we got from the chat?
Yeah, thank you for everyone who's commenting and questioning everything. Joshua wants to know, does Victoria love David so much that she should save Emily?
Does she? Well, Joshua, that is a good question. I mean, she obviously proved that she. I don't know. It's a question of, does she love him? I think she does. Or is it more guilt? Because I feel like she definitely did love him, and I do feel that he loved her, and then he's obviously stopped loving her to the point that he wants to kill her. And when Emily revealed that to Victoria, it was one of those things like, okay, I deserve that, which is a very mature thing, especially especially in this type of situation. It doesn't get more horrific than that. I mean, you're literally abducted and things like that, and you just kind of accept your fate, quote unquote. If I'm gonna die, then you know what? Let it be a purpose, much like Daniel. So, Marissa, if you see a response from him, let me know, and then we'll take some other questions as I continue. So hopefully, Joshua, that kind of answers your question. But let me know. Do you think it's more love than guilt? I think it's, at this point in time, I think she still loves him, but it's more of guilt that was propelling her rather than love, because she knows that at this point it's unrequited love. So, I also like that Jack right away comes to go see David, and because for a whole week we assume that David sort of knows, and that something, we assume that something happened to Victoria and Emily, but of course that's not the case. That's just me as an audience member inferring my knowledge to the characters. And so to see Jack kind of burst in there and like, hey, we have a problem, was great to see very early on in the episode. And like I said, it just became one of those things that turned out so well, and so many moving parts. Our trio, David, Jack, and Ben, sort of know certain pieces of the information, and then you have Victoria and Emily working together, and then of course Malcolm and this guy Ivan. I am so surprised that he had this guy Ivan do his dirty work. Let it be a lesson that if you're an evil guy and you want something done, just send multiple people. Because the plan of sending Ivan, who almost got his butt kicked by Emily alone, to now go send it to Jack Porter, who yes, it's unsuspecting. It's supposed to be a surprise. At the same time, just like in tonight, things can happen, and Jack might, even though it's a surprise, might actually get the upper hand like he did today. So send one or two guys, or three, maybe four. I'm surprised that Malcolm Black didn't have more people to spare, but I guess not. Ivan was the man for the job. And Malcolm gives him, hey, get the information, then feel free to kill him. So we know things aren't so good. And one way, as David says, one way or another, this is going to end tonight. And from there, it was just great because we're trying to figure out when people are going to come in. So David gets captured, which was brilliant play by Malcolm Black of measuring the temperature, because the whole point was, in the van it was only 52 degrees. A human body obviously is much more warmer than that, and so Kate is dead, as he assumed, and so he's going to make David Clark suffer. So he brings him back, and we kind of we kind of see it all unfold from there. And I love the idea of I'm going to show you, you want to go to hell? I'll show you hell. Which is a nice time because obviously it's a coal factory or warehouse, whatever it may be, and that's how Ben and Jack found this place. So yeah, but before I continue, let me let's go to the questions one more time. We'll take a few more if time permits. But go ahead, Marissa. What do we got?
All right. SM Down H9 wants to know in the chat roll, do you think Margot is capable of being a threat to Emily?
Ooh, that's a good question. That is a great question. So I guess let me hold off on until predictions with that one, only because obviously but that is a good question. Short answer, she has to be. Why? If she wasn't, then I mean, this is our biggest storyline right now. We don't know to the extent that Louise can tie into the rest of the characters. Right now, she's just affecting her own life and now Nolan's. But the Margot storyline affects everybody, and so she has to be. And even if perhaps Margot isn't, then her friend, who the employee of Pascal, now he's certainly a threat, and so he may just, once he finds out certain information, may just go rogue. And I know I said I was going to save it until the end, but there you go. I might think of other stuff as I go. I like so going back to Joshua's question, yeah, Victoria in the moment, I really like how she did step up to save Emily in those moments, and was willing to sacrifice herself and said, hey, I killed Kate, she killed my son, and it felt good and all that stuff. Yeah, but as I'm watching it, it did feel like the passing of a torch from all this revenge, now to Margot. So with that, let's get into predictions. Or not quite.
Reading the chat roll, there is another good question, but
all right, let's do it. We'll call it predictions, but we'll kind of do an extended version because most of the predictions will rely on the questions because we all have questions. Like I said, it was pretty much a quote-unquote season finale, except we have a ton more episodes left. So go ahead, Marissa. What do we got? All
right. Amy Elizabeth wants to know, is anybody else upset that Aiden's death is never mentioned or told to David?
Interesting question. I mean, it's one of those things that unfortunately we can't quite focus on, and if you're still watching, to what effect would Aiden have on David? Like, David, to my knowledge, didn't really have a connection with Aiden. Yes, obviously there was a connection because the flight and everything surrounding David Clark also affected Aiden and his sister and all that, but they themselves didn't have that connection. And, Emily and Aiden did, but, that was because, so it was a generational thing. It wasn't like that. Does that make sense? Hopefully to you, Amy, I believe your name was. So I hope that answers that question. Anything else, Marissa? And maybe not so, maybe questions or interesting comments that people are saying?
No, that's about it. Just good questions and comments, and keep them coming,
Okay, we got some good stuff. By the way, I will give Marissa a lot of credit. It's tough to engineer and read questions and comments from you at the pace that you guys write them. So kudos to you, Marissa. Like I said, I think it's going to be, Margot has that very villainous look at the end, like, hey, if anyone's going to take down Emily, it's going to be me. And Victoria is very cautionary with her. She says, listen, I'm out of the game. I just want, if you do this, make sure you have evidence, blah, blah. And so it's going to be interesting to see to the extent that Victoria goes and helping Margot. And that's how it's one of those things. Victoria's trying to get out of the game, but I think she's going to stay in the game, unfortunately. But I don't know. I don't want her to. She deserves a break, as does Emily. But unfortunately, that's not going to be the case. David's probably going to be brought into this, and poor Poor Ben. Now in the preview we get that Emily finally like surprises Ben, and now they're gonna go on that one date that they've always hoped for, because apparently walking on a beach, according to Christina Kaplan, is not a date. But yeah, and I'm sure that will be ruined. So we'll see. Everything's gonna, I think it's gonna be a media storm. So I don't know, but. In the meantime, feel free to tweet at Roxy Stryer, at Tina Camp, and Koppel for Mayor. Thoughts of why they aren't here. How rude are they not here on such a great episode? And of course, follow us here at AfterBuzz TV. Let me know what you guys think, because every week, no matter what, I will be here for you fans, even though sometimes these guys may not. Wonderful episode. Very excited to see where it's going to go. Again, know that some of these episodes will take time to build. Perhaps not. I could be wrong. But, as always, have faith in the writers, because it's going to lead us somewhere cool. I really do believe that. And we'll see you next week.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.